Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This time we will have a look at the Vampire Covenant for a 3000 point beginner army and with a budget of around 150 euros. So that includes the miniatures, unfortunately not all the paint and all the crafts supplies that you need to get the army painted. But then again, for the miniatures only, it's already quite a steal to get away with a list for 150 euros. So what do we have? Well, first of all, we're looking at New Recruit here. This is a software that you can use to build your lists. It's quite convenient. You can just basically select any army in 9th age, and then you can make a list by using Create List. Who would have thought? And then with the units, you have the different options that you can use to upgrade your units, give them different command options, and even the magic items are also included in the software. With that, you can also get an overview of the list. So for the 3000 point Vampire Covenant list, I propose to get this. So Vampire Covenant is an army that relies quite heavily on a bit bigger blocks, I would say, and also on chaff. But then again, chaff is not really a very cost-efficient investment if you go for your army the first time. So I would advise you to just go for the bulk of the army first and then later round it out with some more chaff options. In addition, the vampire counts themselves can be quite sturdy, especially at 3000 points. Vampire count on a skeletal steed is gonna bring back his points, probably. So here we have a Brotherhood of the Dragon one and another one. So they are both quite good at combat with paired weapons, great weapon, and some decent protection. Then you have a big block of scoring ghouls, a support block of skeletons. These are not going to do a lot in the battle, to be honest, other than to score. You have a big block of ghasts. At these point levels, ghasts are also quite good because they have an auto buff, including together with the ghouls, where you get a reroll to hit in the second round of combat. Spectral Hunters for cheap terror on the table, and then you have a unit of Vampire Knights as your elite scoring unit. What kind of models would you use for this? Obviously, you can go for skeletons from any make, and ghouls can be zombie models, can be ghoul models, whatever. You can even just take human figures from any range, basically, and zombify them a bit. Or just paint them in a dark, sinister color scheme and convince your opponent that they're actually Vampire Covenant. For the 150 euro budget, I would advise to maybe go for the Max Mini TT Combat models. So they have an undead halfling army, which I say is already really, really cool. And the models themselves are also very cute. You have this on-foot vampire, which actually doesn't feature in the army, but then for a later expansion, it's always nice to have. You have a banshee in there, a ghoul, champion, lord, whatever. And then just basically the bulk of the army. So you have the zombies that you can still use to summon. So that's also quite convenient to just have a stash of zombies available. Then we have the ghouls themselves. So there is 20 ghouls included in the army, but you also have 20 mummies included. I would combine the two and just make one unit of them and have them all count as ghouls. You have the models that you can use as your spectral hunters. So these are basically raids on tiny ponies. You have some extra models that you can use as ghosts later, or you can also just use them in your unit as unit fillers or extra models. And then you still have some raisable reinforcements, basically. To round it out with the stuff that we were looking at, with the army we were looking at, we would need a couple more skeletons. So they luckily also have halfling skeletons, so they are really cute little skeletons. They have werewolves to serve as your ghasts. I think these work perfectly fine. And then we have the halfling skeleton knights, so as your vampire knights and as your characters. So you can take two of these, make them your characters, and then that's gonna look amazing, I think. So it's a bit of a smaller army in terms of model size, but probably on the table it's going to be quite impressive after all. Anyway, And then just to have a bit of a look of how it will look on the table, we can go to Warhall. So Warhall is a software that enables you to play online games against other people. It's quite a quite a convenient software, quite easy to learn basically. You just have the models. Basically, they are 3D. These ghouls are really crawling on the ground. Um, but they are 3D models, so you can hear that the skeletons are a bit less crouched on the ground. Vampire Knights as well. So you can just test out your army basically and see how it behaves on the table. So this army mostly is going to have the ghouls and the ghasts in the front line. Then you have the skeletons as a scoring support piece, just if you need it for some objectives. Vampire Knights, they can zone a bit from the flank. The Spectral Hunters are probably going to be somewhere behind these two blocks trying to look for a charge that they can make to cause a terror check. Because that's going to be the main purpose here probably. And then you have the Vampire Counts that can either go on their own freely or they can also go in the Vampire Knight units. And then basically that is your game. Yeah, this is going to be quite a nice army to get started, I would say. You are missing some chaff pieces, as I said earlier. But then again, it's quite easy to just get some great bats, some bat swarm models somewhere for quite cheap to round out the army. With that, I hope I gave you a good first impression of what Vampire Covenant could look like, and I hope to see you the next one.